Well, I got a quick question for you as we get rolling tonight, and I want you to go back. It's not very hard, it's an easy thing. Just answer it in your head, but I want you to think back. What is the best Christmas present you ever got? You could have been a little kid, it could have been last year, maybe you already opened something this year, but what was the best Christmas present you ever got? You got it? Now, this one's not quite as exciting, and don't bump anybody, and don't look at anyone, and don't say anything, but what was the worst Christmas present you ever got? You know, hopefully the person that gave it to you is not here with you tonight, but I mean, you remember that present that was, this was really disappointing, and that's my point. Presents actually have the ability to bring us joy or disappointment, or if you're in my family, you get both. And let me explain how that worked, because we're off a little bit of a tick. And I remember as a little kid coming out on Christmas morning and running for the tree, because that's what we did. And when you're a little kid, which present do you go for? You always go for the biggest one, right? The biggest one is going to be the best one. And so my parents, I'm pretty sure they loved us, but they would wrap up our presents. And so one year I opened up the big box and I got the wrapping paper off, and the box said PlayStation on it. And I was so excited. I so wanted a PlayStation. And I opened the box, and inside the box were rocks and socks. I had joy, and then I had disappointment, right? Now, to be fair, later I opened another box that was a Smucker's jelly box. And inside it was a PlayStation. So it kind of worked out, you know, but they like to play games with us. And we carried that on with our kids. We gave one year a tissue box. And inside it was tucked in a dollar bill. And when you pulled it out, another dollar was taped to it, and another dollar. And you had to keep, she did a lot of work to get that $100 that year. I remember that. Joy and disappointment reminds me of a story I heard about a couple that was Christmas shopping this week, which obviously they don't know that you're supposed to do Christmas on Amazon. And they actually went to the mall. So that was their first mistake. The second mistake was she brought her husband, which if he's like me, he was, this is boring, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, and you got about 10 minutes, right? You know, and so they go shopping, and they're looking, and they're trying to find something. And pretty soon, he wanders off. And she's kind of in her mode, getting her presents and doing her stuff, and you know, she kind of bugs her, but she figures, I'll run into him again later, you know, no big deal. And finally, after it's been about an hour, she can't find him, and she hasn't run into him. She's a little exasperated. And so she calls his cell, and he answers, hello, and she's like, where are you? We're supposed to be doing this together. I can't find you. Where are you? Super calm voice. He goes, babe, do you remember about 5 years back, we went to that jewelry store in the mall. We went there, and you picked out this necklace that you loved. And I told you, we can't afford it today, but one day I'm going to get this for you. Do you remember that store? And she started choking up. She's like, yes, I remember that store. He goes, cool, I'm in the food court right next to it if you want to come meet me there. And that's it, isn't it? Joy and disappointment. It's like they go together. But for some reason, Christmas, we always assume is going to be joyful. I mean, we sing Joy to the World. We just sang that song. There's another famous song called Ode to Joy, and you may not know the title, but if you heard it, you would recognize it. I mean, Christmas just seems to include joy, but at the same time, real joy is kind of elusive. And it's even hard to define. Like, how do you define it? If you had to explain it to somebody, what is joy? Like, it's kind of feeling delighted. It's being excited. It's those kind of things. It's knowing that your life has just kind of maybe gotten better. Something has changed for the better, but it's hard to put into words. But for tonight, at least, I want to try to define it. And I want to define it in a very simple way. Joy is an oh moment. Not an oh no moment, because we've had plenty of those. But it's one of those moments where you go, oh. And that's what we're all looking for. We are all looking for oh moments, where we kind of, oh. Let me give you an example, a couple of mine. I know you've had yours. A couple of mine, I remember when I got married. Now, we were very traditional, and so I didn't see Donna the whole day long. And so the first time I saw her is when they opened the doors in the back of the church, and I'm standing up at the altar with the pastor, and that was an oh moment. It was like, oh, my life's about to change, for the better. My life's about to change. My kids were born. I got to be there. I got to be in the room. I got to see them. And that was an oh moment. Getting the dream job and buying our first house and seeing kids graduate and just all those things. Those are all oh moments that I've had. And I know you've had yours too. But there's something special and different about the oh moments that come with Christmas. And actually, there's kind of a little secret that goes along with this. Because some of us, when it comes to Christmas, we're looking for moments of joy. You know, we're hoping for something good to happen and that special feeling and kind of the Christmas magic or whatever you want to call it. We're looking for that moment of joy. But some of you don't have moments of joy. You have a life that's marked by joy. And there's a big difference. And it all seems to center around Christmas. Christmas is a defining moment for so many of us as to whether we have moments of joy or we have a life that's marked by joy. As a matter of fact, somebody wrote a poem about it. His name was Isaiah. And he wrote this poem a little over 2,700 years ago. So it's been around a long, long time. And when we read this poem here in just a moment, you're going to see why it stuck around. Because the things he describes, it doesn't have anything to do with what time you live in and what you're male or female, if you're old or young. I mean, it's everything he talks about resonates with just about every single person. It's something that kind of deeply connects with us when we hear this and we all think to ourselves, yeah, I like that. I want that. He paints this picture with words that's just incredible and hopeful. And he talks about having a life that doesn't just have moments of joy, but having a life that's marked by joy. So if you've got a Bible or the app, you want to follow along, or you just want to listen, that's fine. But it comes out of Isaiah 35. And I'm going to explain a little bit of it as we go. But the poem starts out like this. It said, "The desert and the parched lands will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it will burst into bloom, and it will rejoice greatly and shout for joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, and the splendor of Carmel and Sharon, and they will see the glory of the Lord. They will see the splendor of our God. Strengthen the feeble hands and steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance and with divine retribution. He will come to save you." Now, just for a moment, just stop there. And you may or may not have caught it in all of that because some of that's, like I said, it's poetic language. And I'm not good at poems. I need, black and white. But as you look at that and you listen to it, he's saying something. He's saying, in essence, we all have kind of dry and parched parts of our life, our own personal deserts, where our life has kind of dried up and shriveled in places where we wanted something, where we thought we had something, where we were hoping for something, but it kind of faded and it died. And it maybe even rotted. And it's not what we wanted. And he's saying there's one who's coming. There's one who's coming that can bring life back to what looked like it was dead. That can bring freshness and health back to something that looks like it's dried up and shriveled. Your dreams, your hopes, your expectations, the things you wanted for your life that you've kind of had to let go of because it looked like they were dead. He's saying there's one coming that can actually bring life again to those things. He says you can trade out your fear for strength. This one that's coming, it will allow you to drop your insecurities and trade it for feeling secure. It's an incredible promise, but he's not done yet. He continues on in verse 5. He says, then the eyes of the blind will be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped. The lame will leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals once laid, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. I think this is one that everybody can identify with. In essence, the hurt parts of your life, the wounds that you carry, this one that's coming, he can heal them. He can help set right what's been wrong. Whether it was because you did the wrong or somebody did wrong to you, he can set it right. And I love how he talks about this life because it's not a just enough to get by kind of thing. I mean, so many of us, we've experienced that. We're just kind of going through the day, going through the week, trying to get to the next day, trying to get to the next week. He says, no. This is overwhelming, blooming, flourishing life, not just getting by life. The kind of life you really hoped for and wanted. And beyond that, it extends to all creation, not just you as an individual. It extends to all creation. There's one who's coming that can do that. And then he finishes up. Verse 8, he says, and a highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness, and it will be for those who walk on the way. The unclean will not journey on it, and wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there or any ravenous beast, but they will not be found there. But only the redeemed will walk there. And those that the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter Zion with singing. I love this part. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them. And sorrow and sighing will flee away. That last part to me, that's the part, like I said, I don't get poetry a lot, but this part I did get. It's this picture, if you can see it in your own mind, of us walking or running the race of life. And along the way, because this happens to all of us, things happen. Things that make us sorrowful. Things that we sigh about. I can't believe that happened. Oh, I can't believe they're doing that. Oh, I can't believe we got to work through this. I mean, those things that make us sigh, they kind of become hitchhikers, right? They kind of jump on our back and we have to carry them as we go. And they weigh us down and they rub our backs raw. And he says there's a picture of this one that's coming. And when he comes, joy is going to overtake all the sorrow, all the sighing, all the stuff you've been carrying, and life is going to come and walk alongside you. And you're going to be able to leave all of that stuff behind. You see, that is a life that's marked by joy, not just looking for moments of joy. Because when this one comes, joy comes with him. And as I hear that, I think to myself, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe about Christmas, about God, about your future, about any of those things, no matter what you believe, who wouldn't want this? I mean, you're telling me that the dried up places in my life, the things I gave up on, he can bring it back to life? You're saying that the places that I've been hurt and really still haven't gotten over, the things that I can't seem to let go of, that he can heal that? Really? I mean, if that's really available, who wouldn't want it? You see, that's why this poem that was written 2,700 years ago is still around. Because when people hear it, there's something that clicks in their heart that says, yeah, I'd like to have that. I want that for me. But here's the kicker. The guy named Isaiah that wrote it, it didn't happen yet. He wrote it with hope. He wrote it looking forward to that maybe one day, someday, this would happen. Someday this will come about. That's what he was looking forward to. He had confidence, but he hadn't seen it happen. And that's actually really important for you and me. Because it's not hard to have hope for the future. It's not hard to have a great plan for your life. It's not hard to feel very confident that good things eventually are coming. But for hope to turn into joy, something has to happen. Right? So something has to change by definition. If we're here tonight, we're celebrating that thing. We're celebrating Christmas. Now, I know you have all kinds of traditions in your life, which is fantastic. And I love hearing about what people do on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and the things they eat and when they open presents and where they go and how their family celebrates. It is so cool to hear all those stories. And I hope you have your own, and I hope you get to do all of those things. But here's something else. At the very core of Christmas, as a matter of fact, the only reason we celebrate Christmas, and it's been this way for 2,000 years, is because it's the birth of Jesus. I mean, his name, Christmas, it's in the name, you know. It's about his birth. Because for many people, that was the moment that hope turned into joy. And we didn't have to look for moments of joy anymore. We could live a life marked by joy because of the birth of Jesus. You've probably heard the story. You probably know it. You could probably tell somebody the Christmas story. And it was one of those moments. For some, it's a moment. For others, again, it marks their life. But the thing about it that is so fascinating is the reason we pay attention to it is not because it was Instagram perfect. It wasn't at all. It was a mess. And again, I know you know the story. A teenage mom-to-be and her fiancé are traveling. and they travel through a place that ironically is much like ours. It's rocks, it's dirt, it's brown, and it's hot, and it's ugly. And that's what they're traveling through. And they're doing this for days. This isn't a quick trip. It's not a half-a-day deal. This is a several-day walking trip with the pregnant teenage mom, with her fiancé. Hopefully, they've got something they can ride on here and there. This is a miserable trip. And the reason they're going, and I don't mean to take all the romance away from Christmas, but the reason they're going is so they can register to be taxed. Woohoo! You know, like what a horrible reason to travel. They're so tired. They finally get where they're going. And I know in my head, again, we can kind of romanticize it, but there's no place to go. The hotels are full. Airbnb won't work. I mean, there really is no place to go. They finally find a barn. The guy says, you can sleep in the barn. You know what they wanted to do? I can't prove this. Just what I know when I'm traveling and I've had a hard day. They wanted to sit down. They wanted to get something cool to drink. and they wanted to sleep. And I'm sure that's what they started doing in all of their smelliness and sweatiness and tiredness and worn outness. But anybody that's ever had a baby knows this. When the baby decides it's time to come, it's time to have a baby. And so in the middle of their exhaustion, Mary has never had a baby. Joseph, I'm betting, has never delivered a baby. Among the sights and sounds and smells of the animals, this baby is born. It wasn't perfect, but for so many, it marked the moment that hope turned into joy, that life came, that the dead things lived again, that the hurts were healed. It marked something incredible, but maybe it didn't for you. You see, here's what I do know. It's easy to look at that and say, hey, that's cool. I'm good with Jesus. I'm good with the church. I love it that people love God and want to do nice things and be good people. But come on, honestly, what does the birth of a baby 2,000 years ago have to do with me today? How does that impact me? And if you're asking that kind of a question, I have good news for you. You're not the only one. You're actually in really good company. Because if you fast forward about 30 years from that first night in the barn, Jesus is no longer an infant. He's a 30-year-old man. And Jesus' cousin, his name was John. John was all fired up about following Jesus until he wasn't. He started to have some questions because John was like you. He knew all the stories about the birth, and I'm sure he was excited about it. And John had heard some cool things that Jesus had done. Maybe he might have even seen some of it. But John also had some expectations about his life, about how it should go, about what God should be doing and how the world should work. John kind of been disappointed, maybe like you. And John started to wonder, I thought that the birth of this baby was what was going to change everything. But so far, things have not changed the way I wanted them to. And I think every single one of us can identify with that. I'm not painting John to be a bad guy. And John, because he knew Jesus, because he was Jesus' cousin, I don't know why, but he felt permission. He felt like he had the opportunity to ask. And he couldn't be there in person, so he sent his friend to go ask Jesus, look him straight in the face, eyeball to eyeball, and say, are you the one? Because we thought you were, but I'm not sure now, and things haven't gone the way I thought. So are you the one we were waiting for, the one who was supposed to do all the stuff? Are you him? Jesus was so gracious, answered John's question. He didn't make fun of John, and he didn't scold John, and he didn't make John out to be a bad guy. He just gave him an incredibly powerful answer. It's written in Matthew 11, verse 4. Jesus replied, go back and report to John what you hear and see. Not stories, not rumors, not nice memories. Go back and tell him what you hear and what you see, the evidence. The blind, they receive their sight. The lame, they walk. Those who had leprosy are cleansed. The deaf hear and the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. Jesus reached back to that old poem, the one that we just read that so many of us say, yeah, that's what I want. And he said, look, listen, do you hear the sound of lives changing? Do you hear the sound of dry things being brought back to life? Do you hear the sound of wounds healing? Do you hear the sound of wrong things being set right? Because that answers the question, am I the one? You see, the birth of Christ brings hope close to us, but it's the work of Christ that brings life. And if you're a follower of Jesus and you hear that, you think, yeah, that's right. If you're not a follower of Jesus, you hear that and go, not sure what that means. You know, I've been in this community for almost 20 years now. And it's really great because I've had an opportunity to have so many conversations with people here in our church and people out in our community, our neighbors and folks at the school and people that live here and businesses around here. And I've had opportunities to talk to so many people. And what's one common thing that I hear when I have those conversations is, when it comes to God especially, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. What's going on? How's your life? You know, I'm like everybody else. I mean, things are working. I mean, not everything's perfect, but I'm doing okay. When I ask them about God, they don't say this, but if you read between the lines, this is exactly what they say. I'm trying. It's okay. There's some things that aren't working, but I'm not really a God person. I don't really need God in my life. And the reason they say that is because they've been told a lie. It's not their fault, but they've been told a lie, and you've been told this same lie. I don't know if you believe it or not, but you've been told the same lie. And the lie is this, that being connected to God or following God is really about two things. It's about keeping a lot of rules, and it's about going to church. And when somebody that's burned over, stressed out, and has problems and is trying to do the best they can and getting through life any way they can, here's that. What they think is, I don't need another set of expectations, and I don't really have time to add something else like going to church to my life. Because somebody lied to them and told them that is what God is after, and that's what it looks like to be connected with God. And so, when it comes to their marriage, it feels like one of those dry and lifeless things. We live together in the same house, and we manage the schedule, and we manage the money, and we're doing okay, but we're basically roommates. I don't really need God, but my marriage is kind of worn out. Or maybe when it comes to their relationships, their friends, their family members, the people they've known for a long time, or maybe people that they really used to love being around, their best friends, and something happened, and that relationship got broken, and it tore, and it hurt, and it hasn't been resolved, and there's been no forgiveness, and they're struggling over it, and it bothers them, and it burdens them, and I don't really need God, but I do need some help with these relationships because I can't seem to figure it out. I can't seem to get back right again. I don't need God, but I do need help with that. Maybe something that almost everybody's struggled with. Just mental health, emotional health, feeling anxiety, feeling depressed and discouraged, feeling like things are wrong and they're always wrong and they're going to get worse and I can't seem to get out of it and I'm agitated and I feel itchy inside and I'm unhappy and I don't really need God, but I do need peace. Or just life in general. I don't have any of those things going on. But if you ask me why I'm going to get up and do my thing next week and next year and next month, I don't have a good answer. I mean, because it's my job. I got to pay for stuff. I got to do things. I got to go to work. I mean, I don't have any passion or purpose in my life, but I am going through it. I don't really need God, but I would love to have a reason to get up in the morning. And I hear that over and over and over again. And here, don't miss this, don't miss this. Jesus says, I want to bring you life. I want the dead and dry things to bloom. I want the hurts to be healed. Nobody cares about your marriage more than Jesus does. Nobody cares about your relationships more than Jesus does. Nobody wants to give you purpose and peace more than Jesus does. Because he brings life. And when he does, joy comes with him. See, there was a vision. There was a vision of hope once. And it was caught up in one who was coming. And then there was a Savior that was born. And he brought life. And with it came joy. Now, I don't know how long it's been for you. But almost everybody that I've ever talked to can look back and think about a life that they once wanted. They had a dream about what it would look like, who they would be, and how it would work, and how it would go. And it was a good dream. It was a right dream. And as life has happened, you've had to let go of pieces of it. Maybe you've had to let go of a lot of it. Maybe you've had to let go of all of it. And you kind of wonder, is it even really possible ever to have that back again? And along comes Jesus. And I risk being too simple, and I understand that. But if I had to summarize everything, if I had to summarize Christmas and Easter and the Bible and church and following Jesus and all of that into one simple sentence, here's what I would say. God has a great life for you. He absolutely does. He wants you to live it. As a matter of fact, he created you with a purpose and a passion and a meaning to your life. You can live the life you've always wanted. And it comes by following Jesus as he reconciles and redeems and brings life to what was once dead. I want to challenge you. Make Christmas meaningful this year. Make it meaningful. I hope you do your stuff. I hope you eat your food and enjoy and open your presents. Have a great time. But make it meaningful by making the decision to follow him. Because life comes and you get this incredible benefit. It's almost like when you take a job and you find out all your lunches are paid for because it's a fringe benefit. When Jesus comes into your life, not only do you get life, joy comes alongside with him. You get this benefit of a completely different life that's marked by joy, not desperately searching for moments of joy. You see, that is what Christmas looks like. Let's pray together. Father God, thank you so much for the truth of who you are, for the love that you've shown in sending Jesus to change literally everything. Father, I confess, not because I'm smart, not because I'm good, not because I've done anything right, but because Christ has come into my life. I have a life that's marked by joy, and it's just such an incredible gift that you give us. And Father, we are so thankful for it. And those of us that know and follow Jesus, Christmas is just a reminder of what we have. And I know there's some of you here tonight that you would say, well, I don't know that I follow Jesus, but I'm wanting what you're talking about. I want to guide you in a very simple prayer. You can just say it right where you are, quietly in your heart, as sincerely and honestly as you can. It's very simple. And it goes like this: Jesus, I want to follow you. I want the life that you have for me. I'm trusting you to forgive me and heal me and make the dead things live again. We pray these things, Jesus, in your name.